Internet Magazine.
Hey everyone, this is Tom Hartman with CityNet Magazine. We are in Montreal Comiccon 2025 having a grand old time, having an honor sitting here with Joe Rubinstein. But we've been surprised by how much AI within the artist space has been dominating the conversation over the last few years. Now, last year when we talked about it, people were talking a lot about this idea of they're straight on copying, right? They're straight on copying the AI system. And you're like, yeah, of course, they're taking your work, they're taking your things, and they're developing new systems from it. But now with audio and video and text and all that, we're wondering, is it sort of like reviving interest within the comic world? How do you feel about that?
Reviving interest from who for what?
Where your work can then now be transformed, things that you're making could be transformed into ways you might not do and give yourself a broader audience.
Well, it would be lovely if somebody paid me while they were doing all that, because what AI so far that I'm aware of has done is injured a lot of people. I have friends who are in the advertising and TV storyboard world. They're not getting any work because AI is doing it all. It reminds me of Data on Star Trek Next Generation. He was doing these wonderful impressionist paintings, and everybody said, Data, they're very nice, but they have no soul. Now the point is I don't know that publishers care. I'm not sure that the public is aware. They just want to save money. And if they could hire, slave labor in China to do it for 12 cents a day, I'm sure they do it also. But luckily, they don't even have to pay the computer.
Are they at all being cut out of the process as well by people who are going straight to like a different source, or do the publishers still are they still making as much money as they were before, even by cutting out the artists?
Well, I mean, when comic books were first invented, they were trying to figure out how not to use an inker and just reproduce directly from the pencils. So as long as 80 years ago, they were saying, let's figure out a way to save money. I don't know what they pay for lettering these days, but I imagine it's less than they paid for hand lettering when it was done by the experts. Inking has gone away a lot, and I imagine if they could get it to the point where they could just computer generate AI an entire comic book, they would. Look, aren't they making deep fakes these days? Aren't they trying to figure out, how to make a movie with Humphrey Bogart and Miley Cyrus? And if they didn't have to pay Humphrey Bogart's estate, I'm sure they do dozens of them.
Well, let's say this is a train that's not stopping. If you could give any advice to the consumer of what we can do in order to help guide it into the right place, where would you suggest that we put our efforts?
Well, photography was originally invented to be a substitute for paintings, and photography tried to look like paintings. Now paintings try to look like photography. So I think if somebody gets a portrait of their child or a wedding portrait or an anniversary picture, sure, they can put up a photograph, but I think there's something to be said about history and tradition, to have a lovely oil portrait or a watercolor portrait in their house. So I think, while I don't think the public can do much about complaining that a comic book has been done by AI, support the real artist. I think you'd rather have an original piece of artwork in your house than a print of an original piece of artwork if you can afford it. So don't forget that there are people who are doing hand-done work, which, while it can be emulated, it isn't the same thing.
That is absolutely true. Love to end it on that note, this idea that there's a premium placed on what human beings are doing. That's how I've been feeling in my own life, and that's what I've seen even from my kids, where something is made specifically, they love that.
We do have to ignore the real doll, though. Okay.
Right.
There's a substitute market for that one. So, look, I don't know the difference between a song that's on vinyl and that there's a song digitally, but apparently the people who do.
Right.
So I look at some very fantastic art by AI, and I think, wow, I'm sure people love it, but it is lacking something to my mind. I hope other people on some subconscious, instinctive level realize there's something missing from that should be done by hand.
Well, it's a world shift happening right now. We thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
You're welcome.
This is Tom Hartman, and thank you for watching CityNet Magazine.
Document